Hello, and good morning. Well, for me it's morning. For you guys, whenever you watch this. I'm here today, not necessarily with a channeled message, but I had this conversation rolling around in my brain. Today we're talking about narcissism. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not anything. I don't have a PhD. I'm just a man with a phone living his life. And these are all based off my personal experiences of dealing with and living with such scenarios. So this was one of the things the universe brought to me. And again, it's funny because that's obviously a synchronistic thing or a universe, God thing, whatever you want to call it. Because after I moved out, I couldn't stand living with my family during COVID. And I was complaining to a friend, and he recommended that I move in with him and did a quarantine. I quit my job and I moved in with him. Luckily, we were getting tax stuff, so I was able to survive in the situation I was in. But the fun thing was, anytime you cut yourself off from narcissistic energy or parasitic energy, vampiric energy, anything that's drawing from you, anytime you cut it off, the energy freaks out. And it's like, ugh. So anytime I disconnect from my dad, he would flip out. And he wouldn't, he would overly talk. He would spam me with calls and texts and, trying to get me to talk to him because I don't want to talk to him. The point of that is, it got to a point he bought me a book. Surprise, surprise, no. He bought me this. It's called Disarming the Narcissist. And again, I thought it was really ironic in the funny sense because I considered him to be a narcissist. Early on as a kid, I had realized he was one of those, your answer's never right. It's always his answer or it's the wrong answer. But then he'd even got to the point when you're feeding him the answer he wanted, he still didn't accept it. That's some pretty hardcore narcissistic stuff there. So no matter what, whenever he asked you a question or whatever you got in trouble, there is no answer. You're immediately, panic mode sets in, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna get screamed at no matter what happens, Now there are different types of narcissism or different traits. I don't know if there's labels. But one thing I was about to go into, for instance, there's that. Or, luckily, sometimes logic can work. I remember one day, the downstairs toilet backed up. I was home alone for some reason. I didn't go to school, and my parents had to work. So, it's this little kid home alone. I was probably about 10 or 11. And the downstairs toilet backed up. Like, literally poop in the toilet. Like, it was coming the wrong direction. And my dad gets home, I'm like, hey dad, the toilet got backed up. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I showed him. I was just a kid trying to show him, hey man, something weird happened. Well, it turned into a 30-minute scream fest. And it's like, why? Well, because he thought I pooped in the toilet and made a mess and didn't try to clean it. And I was like, no dad, the toilet backed up. Well, I think it just went on and on. And it's like, no. Finally, I look at him like, okay, look. If I did what you said I did, then the plunger would be wet. He was wet. I was like, you said I made a mess and I tried to clean it and cover it up. Well, the plunger's not wet. What now? He stops and goes, oh. Oh, well, that was a pretty big turd for a kid anyways. I would have been impressed. I'm just like, no, 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 no. You just got done yelling at me. How about an apology? You just got done yelling at me. Well, of course, I turned around and you just yelled more. He's like, no, I was yelling. And it's just like, all right. So even after logic kicked in, he still couldn't admit he was wrong. Also, during COVID, he bought me this book. Which again, like I said, I thought was funny because he is a narcissist. So, a book on how to disarm the narcissist coming from a narcissist, I'm just like, interesting. And as you can see, I've tabbed the hell out of it. I studied this book. It's actually quite useful. I actually really liked it. I've always been an adventure dude and a fantasy guy. So if it's not adventure or fantasy, I don't read it. But these kind of self-help books, when I get them, because this was free, my dad gave it to me. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's got some information. Well, I'm not here to villainize my dad. Nah, I didn't really like him. He's still alive. I didn't like him growing up. Hey, whatever. But the point of this conversation isn't, again, to villainize narcissists and separate us and say, hey, I'm good and you're narcissistic, you're bad. It's to realize that they're also just healing people. Because as I'm reading this book, my ego, of course, is like, oh, yep, nope, this is the trait of my dad. He's a narcissist, he's got that trait, that trait, that trait, that trait. My stepmom, oh, she's got that trait, that trait, that trait, that trait. And then you get to me, and I'm just like, huh. You know, this chapter sounds kind of like me. But damn. Well, you think about it. You got a narcissistic dad. You got a narcissistic mom. And then your dad later remarries another narcissistic mom who's even more narcissistic than the last one. Yeah, unfortunately, the kids also turn out to be narcissistic. So I went through the phase of, okay, I'm going to purge out all of my narcissism. I don't want to be better than anyone else. I don't think I'm better than, I don't want to think I'm better than anyone else. Because again, this is actually it showed me a light on the toxicity of the traits. So once I started working on my own narcissism, I'm like, okay, this book has shown me some things. You know, I can't really sit here and judge them when clearly I'm being afflicted by the same thing. So I worked on healing myself and healing the part of me that judges. Well, then I kind of got into a phase of, okay, well, now I've been quieting my ego and drowning out the narcissism, but there's a narcissistic person over there, and they were abusive to me, so now they're evil and bad, and I'm not narcissistic, they're bad. And you had to go through that phase and be like, because they were abusive. You know, I had narcissistic abusers, not just my family. Most narcissists actually are abusive. That's just how they are. Whether it's physically or mentally or verbally, my dad was both, verbally and physically. But even after that, my stepmom was verbally, and everyone after that became just verbal. You know, you can't really abuse people as of this point. Not physically, not without going to jail. So they became verbally abusive. Even some of my old managers, friends, I had friends who were verbally abusive, like passive-aggressive comments and stuff like that. And it's basically society itself. If you're going to say narcissism is evil, or narcissists are evil and bad, then you're going to basically have to say structure of society as a whole. Because it's not just one individual. It's not just one society. Because example, Of course, you could say racism, but I don't believe in it. People are people. Yes, there's color, skin. Skin doesn't matter because people are people. We're all people. Doesn't matter what color. You can be a piece of crap or you can be the best person ever. Color doesn't change that. However, there are stereotypes because of the way cultures are raised. Just like there are white people culture stereotypes, so on and so forth. My most recent job was a UPS store, and it was actually pretty bad. It was being ran by two Indian folks. Now, again, I have nothing against Indians or any race or religion or culture. In fact, I really liked the culture up to this point. Having so many negative occurrences, eventually I'm just like, I'm trying not to be racist, but the pattern definitely. So what happened was I actually had manipulative managers, gaslighters, and liars. However, reading this book and realizing, the traits of narcissism and how it works, you begin to see it in others. And for a while, I was super hyper vigilant and like, oh my god, everyone's a narcissist, trying to be protecting myself from narcissism, basically by not talking to anyone. That's not how it works. So I'm working at this job, and they actually are like narcissistic manipulative. Now, some people do it knowingly, some people don't. It's mainly just programming that we don't know about. Like most people, we function on unconscious programming. Well, since we're raised to be narcissists, we actually don't know anything else. So it may not be that person's fault that they're running on old software. But sometimes people are aware of it and do it anyways. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's, yes, they were trying to attack me, and yes, they were, whatever, whether they were aware of their narcissism or not, it doesn't matter. That's not the important part. Well, let's tell this story first. So, my family, and then someone else afterwards, her name was Tanya, and she was a roommate. I moved in with those people during COVID, and ironically enough, I also had some really hardcore narcissistic roommates. And it had made me realize, that they're not evil. They're just, and I don't want to say this word, but they're broken. They're hurting. They're hurt. So the mother, I lived with the boyfriend, the girlfriend, and the mother of the girlfriend. So the mother was super narcissistic, and the daughter was obviously super narcissistic too. And the mom actually complained about stuff like, I was quiet. I never talked to her. I just kind of kept to myself. It was basically, for me, a room that I was using to get away from my family. However, she did not like that. She even actually complained to me, and we had an argument one day about me being a good roommate. Yes. Like, she actually yelled at me and said, you're always so quiet. You never come and bug anyone. You always pay your rent. Aren't you just like the best roommate? It's like, why are you complaining about this? It's because I don't come and talk to you. It's because I don't socialize with you and spend time with you like you believe I should. Okay, I get that. But then I'm not necessarily trying to uncover the narcissism, but once you aren't willing to put up with it. Now, my problem was I did try to uncover it. At one point, I had a Steam, I had a community I streamed. And one of my main founding members, I found out was doing stuff I was not okay with. And I called him out on it. I tried not to, but it got to a point I had to. Well, it split the Discord, and it destroyed my community. And because of that, I've been pretty hesitant to get back into it. That one I actually seeked it out and targeted it and said, oh look, there's narcissism, I'm going to destroy it, let's call it out. Obviously that did not work out. However, the other one, not necessarily that I was trying to call her out, but it's just not trying to put up with it. Because you don't have to tolerate it. Yes, these people are hurting. And they're upset, and they deserve love. But that doesn't mean you deserve to put up with what they're doing. For instance, they were doing things to push me out of the place. Because I wouldn't comply to their narcissistic rules, they didn't want me there. For instance, one of the narcissistic communication is expectations. They speak to you in expectations. Like, the room I was staying in had the Wi-Fi router. And all three of me and my two friends, roommates, were sitting outside playing on our computer. And she mentioned she has an issue with the Wi-Fi. He goes, hey. And she actually looks at me and goes, the Wi-Fi isn't working. I'm just like, okay. And she's like, well, it's not working. I'm not getting connection. I'm just like, okay. Yeah, that sucks. I don't know how to help you. She got mad, stormed out of her chair, slammed every door she could. And my other roommate, the boyfriend's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, she asked you for help. It's like, no, she didn't. I didn't hear any question anywhere. I heard her make a demand and expect me to fix it. That's not a question. That's not asking. I'm not doing it. She wants to fix it, you can get up and go fix it like she did. So I wouldn't tolerate it. Well, I got to the point they eventually tried to push me out of the house. Not physically, but like kept up the narcissistic stuff until I left. Now, obviously you could sit there and be like, oh, well, these people are bad. They're mean, they're horrible people. No, the truth is, they're hurting. They're damaged. Not damaged, but like, they believe they're damaged. That's what it is. For instance, we're going to go back to my stepmom. My stepmom was a horrible narcissist. Controlled the family, treated us like absolute crap. Was just nasty. Was just nasty. Now, I don't want to go into the psychology. Again, I'm not a doctor. Some of it they actually enjoy. Because, you know, if you're hurting too, then they're not the only ones hurting. If somebody else is sharing in their pain, oddly enough, it actually helps. And I totally get that. I actually get that 100%. I am not talking down to anyone. I'm not saying you're a horrible person for doing that. Everything I'm saying, I have done too. Again, I get it. And this is how I'm able to speak from experience. I did this stuff too. So because I wasn't giving her validation, I wasn't giving her what she believed or expected to get, I was not okay to exist in her reality. Now again, I wasn't going out of my way like they were. They were actually attacking me. Yes, this wasn't a concept of, oh, it's actually just a pattern. No, they were going out of their way and trying to get my goat, were to say. Now, I wasn't trying to go out of their way and get their goat, but again, I wasn't tolerating it. I didn't have to be rude. Like, for instance, the stove was a mess. Nobody cleaned up after themselves. So whenever I cooked, I cleaned up after myself and left the rest of the kitchen. Well, the rest of the kitchen's always a mess. Well, using the stove, they expect you to clean the whole thing. So, like, you use the kitchen, they expect you to clean it, even if you didn't make the mess. And I was like, I'm not doing this. So I would literally clean off one square of the stove, one square of the counter, like I cleaned up my mess. Sure, for a while, my ego wanted to fight back and be like, F you, you attack me, I attack you. That's part of the narcissism, you know, that's how it gets fed. But then it shifted to a point of, not trying to get them back, but just simply not caring. So the job I just recently had, we'll get back to that now. They actually were manipulative. Now, when I say they're Indian, there is some belief system that their egos are pretty bad. Whether or not it has to do with their religion or their race doesn't matter. These people had some pretty inflated egos. In fact, to them, the store I was working at was just a side gig. They didn't give two shits about it. In fact, they admitted they didn't want hands-on at all. They wanted someone to come in and run the store and make the money. Alright, that's fair. But then they wanted to micromanage. And then sit there and watch the camera and do this, this, and this. And then whenever I asked for help, oh, we can't do that. We're offhands. We don't help. Okay. Then it became worse with the lying. Because they also had their kid there who worked with me. He was stealing the money from the registers, and I'm pretty sure he was buying weed with it. You know, hey, that's cool, you do you. But when I come in the next morning and your mom's asking me why the drawer's $150 short, and I tell them, oh, it's because, you said he took the money, the guy said he took the money, the next morning he's telling me he didn't. Mom's like, yeah, he said he didn't do that. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Well, then I sent them an audio clip of him admitting it. I was like, okay, so here's an audio clip saying, hey, this is why the drawer is short. Literally, the next day, they put the money back. The next day, money's short. Where's the money, Adam? Well, he probably took it again. What do you mean? Well, he takes the money from the drawer. No, he doesn't. Literally, one of my conversations, I stopped mid-conversation. I go, Jill, are we seriously going to have this conversation again? Do I actually need to pull up the text again and send you this is bad. The narcissism is bad. Bad. And I actually completely wrecked everything there. Not intentionally. But it's because I saw through all their bullcrap, I wasn't putting up with it. I even got to the point where it's okay, if you guys want me to stay here, I need a raise. Yeah, you'll get your raise in 3 months. No, that's not good enough. I have been doing twice the amount of work. If you want me to do that work, then give me the raise now. We'll talk about it. Okay, well then here's the other alternative. You come in and help me, like you're supposed to. We'll talk about it. So I put in my 2 weeks, and they freaked out. Oh my God, why, what's wrong, da-da-da. Finally talked to me and said, okay, we'll come in, we're both gonna come in tomorrow and we'll talk to you about it, and nothing. Gaslighted me. Nothing, nobody came in, nothing happened. Now yes, my ego did flare up at certain times, and I was getting triggered and trying to call them out and be like, oh, you attack me, I'm gonna attack you. But the lessons really wasn't that. It was, you know what? I know I'm right, I know I'm confident, you guys can gaslight me all you want. Because it was literally everyone. Everyone there was gaslighting me. In fact, because I was the newbie. Everyone there was already employees before I started. I found out they had a secret group chat they were all talking in, and I basically became their Truman Show. I was a game. They were sitting there manipulating, playing games, and I'm like, alright, well, this one's a little more intentional. Even though they have narcissistic amnesia, that part is the part that bugged me the most. I don't understand where, because I guess I never had this part. Whenever I got slapped in the face with logic, I stopped. And it's oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm mad, and I know you're right, but whatever, I accept you're right. And I'll be grouchy and I'll be a bitch. It's yeah, but at least I admit you're right. This is the part that boggles my mind, and I'm sure psychology can explain it. But even after I called him out on lying, I was straight up with them. I'm like, look, I don't care. I know you guys are playing games. But if you cut the games, I'll still work here. And I'll still run your store. I just ask for a little bit of help. And I'll go, oh God, you asked for a narcissist for some help? That's it. Nah, they had an issue. So it's like, all right. I mean, I could have done a bunch of different stuff. Honestly, I could have turned around and attacked them and sank their store, but I just walked away. It's like, I don't know what kind of healing, because in my mind, to a certain point, yes, it still needs to be healed because it's a mindset or a perspective that could be healed. But again, you never truly know people's story. There are those who had a bad life. So like my stepmom, the reason she was so controlling and narcissistic is because she also had a bad life. This is the long-standing point I'm trying to get to. They're just people who are hurt. So because she had bad things happen to her, she tried to control her life and everyone around her. And instead of letting go of the pain and trying to heal, she held on to the pain and used it and hurt others around her and basically lived in pain and used fear. Fear controlled her, and she used fear to control us. So in that perspective, she actually is a hurt person, hurting others. Now again, I don't know how difficult these people's lives were. My other bosses, now they were Indian. I say this because they were actually well endowed. Like, they had good money. I imagine they actually had a pretty good life. I mean, you could sit there and define good relatively, but like, they didn't have any murders, they didn't have any abuse, they didn't have like family members going to jail. I mean, again, you don't know, you never really know, but it was a couple with one kid. Like the ideal setup. And they were actually putting that kid through college. So it's like, now I know these people kind of are doing it on purpose. So it's like, that's a definite no-no. That's when you just walk away. Others, they need healing. They deserve love. These people, I mean, they still need healing. They still need love. But that doesn't mean put up with their crap. That doesn't mean love them at the expense of yourself, too. That's how people get stuck in abusive relationships. Like my dad. My dad was narcissistic and abusive. But because he was my father, I was convinced I had to love him. And that something was wrong because he was doing this to me. And all these crazy things. Growing up, you realize that's not the case. I don't even know what the point of the video was. I just couldn't sleep and it was rolling around in my brain. I guess the underlining theme is understanding and trying to understand. Because in that way you can use your discernment instead of just getting attacked and using your ego. Kind of like I said, the discernment between there are these people who are just hurt and are hurting others, and then there are those who are aware and choosing it anyways. Because tell you what, when they were flipping out, like, they weren't trying to get me fired, they were actually trying to torture me worse. It wasn't just, it was like, it's almost like they knew they had me trapped and they were making it worse. Because it was a 9-to-5 job and I needed a job, you know, blah, blah, blah. But they would put me through the ringer on purpose. Like, I would call them out on something on accident. Like, I wasn't even trying to be rude. Like, one day it's like, hey, the drawer's short, it's because you said he took some money. Well, she got defensive. It's like, no, we don't do that. So I ended up calling them out on accident. Like, one day, I wasn't trying to mean it like this. In my mind, I'm just like, hey, it just turns out this wasn't done correctly, so this is why we're having issues. But it got triggered in this dude's mind. I told him he was doing his job incorrectly. And he actually went and made and sabotaged me. Like, the issue I was telling him about, I went back and checked the status, and it turns out we had less status, and he had handwritten a note saying, oh, we're missing this, this, and this. But I looked in the information, and the day I set up that mailbox kind of thing, I set up that information, and I did everything at that moment. So when I go back and I'm finding missing information, that means he took it out. So these people were actually actively trying to attack. So at that point, you just walk away. Some people need love, some people you just walk away. You have to discern between it and decide which one it is. Either way, point of the story, don't put up with it. Don't tolerate it. Get quiet. Instead of lashing out, here's your number one. If you take nothing away from this video but this, get quiet. That's what I started doing with my dad, and it pissed him off. Whenever he would scream and yell and get narcissistic and try to get me into an argument, because part of it is they just want argument, they want energy. Again, his was, the answers are never correct, so you always answer his question, it's the wrong answer, and he always gets you another question, and he gets you in this trap. I would literally just sit there and just... He could sit there and turn red screaming at me. I wouldn't care. I'm just like... And it scared him. Because he didn't know what to do. Eventually, I just completely stopped talking. I even got to the point I started smirking at him. Not out of ego. I guess it was out of ego. But it's like we're having a conversation, and I answer a question, and you see him get aggro, and I just look at him and go... It's like, are you going to answer my question? I go, no. I'm not answering your question. Why not? Because I don't want to. You're being an asshole. I'm not answering. And then if he kept trying to be rude, I just get up and leave. Plain and simple. Yeah, I guess that's it. I'm done. I feel like I want to keep talking, but I got nothing else to come out. You guys have a great day, and just remember they're not bad people. I don't know if anyone truly is a bad person.